Hi and welcome back to my channel. So today's video will be a monthly wrap-up of the books that I read in February. I think this will be quite a short video because I did not read that many books. I did read quite a lot, but the books that I chose were longer books. So let's get into it. The first book I read is My Struggle by a Norwegian author called Uppbeat. And this is the first book in a series of 6, and the main focus is on the death of his dad. And the book tells the story of his childhood and his teenage years in the 70s and 80s in Norway. And then later on in the book we meet him again when he's 30 years old and his dad has just passed away. So then the rest of the book is about him processing the death of his dad, what his dad became, and sort of the relationship that the two of them had. So this is a very introspective book. It is centered and very focused on the author himself. I know that some people might find it very navel-gazing, and I can see why. Like I said, it is very centered and focused on the author, but for me that is sort of the point. The book is called My Struggle, and the book really is about his struggle. So when I read this book, I almost felt like I was there with him. I was really feeling the mood and the emotions and the atmosphere that he was describing. And by him looking so closely at himself, I in turn started to look at myself and my life, and it made me aware of aspects of myself and my life that I hadn't seen before or hadn't thought about before. So I found it to be very rewarding to read, and I really would recommend it to someone who's looking for more than a story, someone who's looking for discovering themselves by reading about others. The second book I read is 1Q84 by Japanese author Haruki Murakami. I finished the first part of this book in January, and now in February I finished the second part. It is actually just one book, but for this edition it's been divided into 3 parts to make it easier to read. And like I said before, this is my first time reading magical realism, but I'm finding it very easy to follow along with the story, so I would recommend it to anyone who's new to magical realism. I will do a full review of this book after I finish the third part, which I guess will be at the end of March. But so far I can say that I'm really enjoying reading this story. So in short, without any spoilers, this story is set in Tokyo in 1984, and there are 2 main characters that we are following, and every other chapter is about each character. So there's 1 young woman and 1 young man, and they both live in our normal world that we know, but then some small strange things start to happen, and they are being dragged into another world which is almost the same as ours, but there are strange differences. So like I said, this is the second of 3 books, and I have to say that I enjoyed the first book a little bit more. Some of the magical stuff in this book are a little bit too icky for me, and I feel like they were mainly added for shock value. It wasn't absolutely necessary to tell the story in this way. But at the same time, what I'm really enjoying about this book is that I never know what's going to happen. I feel like the story could go anywhere, and that's really what I'm enjoying about this book. So I'm sort of accepting that anything can happen, the story can go anywhere, and I'm along for the ride. So last but not least is this brick of a book. It is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. It is the 5th book in the series, and I don't think that I have to explain the story of Harry Potter on BookTube. I assume that most people read them when they were kids or young teenagers, just like I did. I read them in Swedish as they were being released, and as an adult, when I started to learning French more seriously, I started rereading them in French, and I finished 4 books, and then my French had improved sufficiently for me to start reading more advanced adult books. So I sort of put the Harry Potter books aside and read other stuff instead. But I'm not really someone who likes to leave stuff half finished, so I decided to finish the whole series in French. So I went to the library here in Nice and picked this one up. Reading Harry Potter is very nostalgic for me, and I find it very hard to critique the books. However, this is not my favorite Harry Potter book. I find it to be a bit slow at times. I guess that it's a very necessary book to set up the story for the final 2 books in the series, and it's not boring by any means. I still enjoy reading it, but it's not my favorite, and I find the character of Umbridge to be very boring. She's featured way too much, I think. I get that I'm not supposed to like her, but I don't think she is charismatic or interesting enough to be featured so much in this book. When I was a kid, I remember really liking the second book the most, The Chamber of Secrets. And after now reading 5 of the books as an adult, I have to say that that opinion still stands. So those were all the books I read in February. I know that it was not that many, but it was a short month and I chose long books to read. So I'm hoping to read a bit more in March. And I want to say thank you for watching and see you next time.